It's not a plot hole, it's foreshadowing, versus it's not a plot hole, it's just something that they opted not to spoon feed you because it would be obvious if you thought about it for 20 seconds, versus it may be a plot hole, but it still works in terms of the story's themes and character logic, versus okay, it is a plot hole, what are you going to do, cry about it? Versus all works of fiction represent constructed realities, and by demanding a lack of plot holes, you are improperly importing the rules of objective reality into a subjective creation that must be judged primarily on its aesthetic merits. Versus, dude, just come up with a headcanon like a normal human being. My writing ability currently feels on par with that of, like, a 7-year-old. I'm just writing one sentence, then another sentence. Subject, verb, object, dependent clause, period. Do any of them relate? Unclear. That is for God to decide. I certainly can't. The URL makes this so much funnier. College education has worn off. And it's funny because the OP is called post-grad. Yup. God, my favorite part of knitting, crocheting, etc. is watching string become fabric, crumpling it in my hands. This fabric would have never existed had I not willed it into being. It isn't fabric, it's time, made physical, made material. Isn't that the high of crafting? You mold time between your hands and put it into other people's hands. My least favorite part is when my cat tries to cram the whole yarn ball into his mouth. Guy who snaps his fingers and says, "That's it," whenever he comes up with a solution to a problem. Guy who hops up and says, "Eureka," when he knows what to do. Guy who has a light bulb appear over his head when he has an idea. Tag yourself. Which one are you? Oh, you're a fan of my writing? Name 5 of the unfinished stories sitting in my drafts. You're just trying to outsource title generation. I've been found out. What people think is hard about writing. Describing the joy, love, beauty, grief, loss, and hope that forms the richness of human experience. What is actually hard about writing? Describing basic actions such as turning, leaning over, reclining, gesturing, saying something in a quiet voice, breathing, getting up from chairs, and walking across rooms. I'll spill out a brilliant, wrenching portrayal of a character's struggle with grief over a loss and his complex regrets and guilt, and then a page later I'll have to write that a character who's lying prone raises his head and shoulders up to look at something without fully getting up, and I'll get so angry I want to strangle an eagle with my bare hands! If you're ever worried about whether your writing is too self-indulgent, I just want you to remember that Sharknado had 5 sequels. I'm only partway through watching Sharknado 6. It's about time. But already they've traveled through time and ridden on a pteranodon into a Sharknado so they could use the magic teleportation portal inside of it to travel forward in time to King Arthur's time, where they are currently battling a Sharknado full of fire-breathing dragon sharks with Excalibur, which is a chainsaw sword that calls lightning. You're fine. In fact, be a little more self-indulgent, if anything. That sounds awesome and ridiculous at the same time. It's fun reading writers who clearly grew up in suburban, urban environments as someone who grew up on a farm, because they're always like, oh, it was so creepy, woods at night, eerily breathtaking, something was living in there. And it's like, yeah, that'll be the deer. City person writing a creepy forest. They heard a sound. Rural person writing a creepy forest. They heard no sound. Exactly! If you don't decouple your drive to create from your desire for attention, you will go insane. Simple as. You will never feel satisfied because you will always want more, and you will feel perpetually bitter that you did not get what you are owed. It's an unpopular opinion, but it is absolutely and completely true. I've never seen someone who creates for engagement happy with the engagement they get. I posit they can't ever be happy that way because it will never be enough. Writing is not about telling an epic story or making something that will outlive you. Writing is about going, You know what would be fucking awesome? And then committing word crimes. It's also about going, would this be fucked up or what? And then committing word crimes. So are you an obsessing over minor background characters who you find more compelling than the nominal protagonist due to a coincidental intersection of experiences fan? Or an anchoring your entire understanding of the material in random world-building details which the text is thoroughly uninterested in exploring and which probably had no greater thought put into them than, hey, wouldn't it be cool if fan? What is a minor background character if not a world-building detail the text is uninterested in exploring? Good point, actually. I had 3 fic ideas. Wrote 1. I still have 3 fic ideas. This is not how math is supposed to work. Can this post please back up? It's too close to home. I had 5 ideas. I wrote 2. Now I have 7. Listen, they're called plot bunnies for a reason, and it's not just because they hop around all over your brain demanding attention. 99 fanfic ideas on my blog, 99 fanfic ideas. Take one down, pass it around. 137 fanfic ideas on my blog. This post walked into my house and kicked in my ribs. Writing tip. If you don't feel like actually writing, prepare for writing. Open your work in progress Word doc, read the last page again, scribble notes on what happens next. Once you've done this, you might just find yourself wanting to continue after all. And if you don't, no worries, you've made it easier to jump back into later. This always works for me. Really good advice. I do this to get into the writing mood. I can tell myself, I don't have to write, no pressure. Look, I'm not writing. This isn't writing. Great advice! Fanfiction is becoming people's primary form of entertainment right now because most media right now is so cheap, bland, recycled, and sponsored by people who love money more than the source material. Fanfiction is written for free by people who genuinely love what they're writing about. That's why it's better. That's why it's more satisfying. Fanfiction is a home-cooked meal made for yourself and for your friends. Media today is junky fast food spoiled by too much grease and the knowledge that the people producing it are being criminally mistreated and underpaid. Fanfiction is a home-cooked meal. Wow, bro, this rings so true! Why do people like a character who's committed war crimes but hate this other character just because they're annoying? Because it's fiction, Susan, and being annoying in fiction is a greater sin than being a supervillain, because it won't make me want to read about them. It isn't difficult to understand. It is absurd to divide people into good and bad. People are either charming or tedious. Oscar Wilde. The war crimes are fictional, but my annoyance is real. That some people respond to any well-foreshadowed reveal with, ugh, that plot twist was so predictable, proves bad faith criticism has rotted their brains to the point they think it's bad writing if they can correctly identify information the writers were intentionally giving them. Sometimes the point of the reveal is not to shock you. Sometimes the point is anticipation of the reveal. You know it's coming, just not when, how, or what the consequences will be. And sometimes that can be so much more interesting than not seeing it coming at all. AO3's orphaning option is cool and a good idea, but mostly very fucking funny. I posted this work for fun when I was younger, and I still want people to be able to come back to it if they liked it, but now I'm an adult professional and I don't want it attached to my name. What's the word for that? Anonymously posting? No, I want something that indicates I murdered this story's parents. Technically, the story's parents faked their own death and disappeared to go have an office job, and that's even funnier. Oh my god, that's so dark. I love it. Just a reminder that fictional characters aren't real people who need to be held to account for their actions. They are vehicles to tell a story. Their flaws and contradictions are a feature and not a bug, and appreciating the role they play in the story is not a moral failing. No one asked for this one, but if you made lore for a character you've had since you were 16, and you're in your 20s now and have a better grasp of narrative structure and power creep, you can just retcon the dumb stuff. Like, you can do that, for free. You're not beholden to the junk you wrote 5 years ago. And you don't need to justify removing it if it sucks. This is actually really valuable. Every writer should keep this in mind. That's also part of the reason you shouldn't look back at your old writing and label it as pure trash. You didn't know what you were doing back then. You do now. This is your daily, friendly reminder to use commas instead of periods during the dialogue of your story, she said with a smile. Unless you are following the dialogue with an action and not a dialogue tag. He took a deep breath and sat back down after making the clarifying statement. However, she added, shifting in her seat, it's appropriate to use a comma if there's action in the middle of a sentence. True, she glanced at the others. You can also end with a period if you include an action between two separate statements. Things I didn't know. And, she waved a pen as though to underline her statement. If you're interrupting a sentence with an action, you need to type 2 hyphens to make an end dash. You guys have no idea how many students in my advanced fiction workshop didn't know any of this when writing their stories. Reblog to save a life. Writing fanfiction is just, I'm being so creative and original. I'm plagiarizing everyone by accident. I'm a genius. I'm cringe. I'm too angsty. I'm too cheesy. This is not in character. It doesn't matter that it's not in character because these are my characters now. I love my hobby. This is the worst possible use of my time. I'm seeking validation. I'm projecting my own personal problems onto the story and I'm barely hiding it. I know so many words and I'm using all of them wrong. I'm on Tumblr posting about it instead of writing it. Oh my goodness. Yep, that is a lot to unpack there. May I please draw your OC? Reblog this message if you encourage anyone that wants to draw your OC to do so. No need to ask for permission in advance. Go for it. Draw my OC. If you want, I'll even give you reference posts. Go to town on it. You are welcome to draw my OC and surprise me with the result. Seriously. In fact, I encourage it. I will proudly display whatever it is you submit to me regarding my OC. There is a chance that I will squeal about it for several days. Even if you feel you aren't good at whatever artistic adventure it is you do, please feel free to submit it to me. I want to see what you have done. I have people drawing my OCs already. Fan art makes me so fucking happy. If anyone here wants to, fucking go for it. Yep, this video is me telling all of you that you are more than welcome to make art of my OC, cause I love them. How do draw good? Fill 14 sketchbook. Bad stuff is good stuff because you made stuff. Do you like sparkle? Draw sparkle. Draw what makes your heart do the smiley emote. Remember to drink lots of agua or else bad time. Don't stress, friend, all is well. Your art is hot like potato crisps. Don't let anyone piss on your good mood, amigo. If they do, eat them. This fucking post. I finally found it! The problem with being a creative person is I want to create all the things. I want to draw a little drawing. I want to write a fic. I want to write a book. I want to paint with watercolors. I want to paint with oil paints. I want to animate. I want to make something out of clay. I want to sew a dress. I want to play a song on the ukulele. I want to play a song on the cello. I want to play a song on the harp. I want to write a song. I want to write a musical. I want to make a webcomic. I want to make a video game. I want to do everything, but I don't have the time or money or motivation. Been there, still haven't done all that. As someone whose advice is often just right, what do you feel about plotting out books in advance, or about people who swear that it is the only correct method? That's just right too, and you probably need some kind of a plot, even if it's just, she'll go through the door into the other world and she'll meet the other mother, and then she'll come back and then she'll have to go back again and sort things out. It's not automatic writing, but how much detail you need and what you invent as you go is going to change. What I don't enjoy doing is plotting too tightly, because it feels like I'm too constrained by something past me decided. I would rather feel I was collaborating with past me, and throwing balls in the air for future me to catch. Nobody who says, this is the only way to write, is ever telling you the truth, unless they add, for me at least, at the end of their sentence. I like the found family trope as much as the next person, but it really irks me to see so many dynamics forced into replicating the nuclear family. That's not even an original take. Other people have said it. It just bugs me in particular, since I really hate it when this dynamics results in uneven emotional labor between characters who should be equals otherwise. Also, trying to shove characters into the dad role, or this is the older brother figure, completely erases the ever-fascinating dynamic of there are no words to describe what we are to each other, we just know there is love. Like, that's the good shit. Relationships that are just a little bit of everything. I am in love with you. You can decide what that means. Me rambling. Do not forget, the things you create are just as unique and singular as you are. Nobody else can make what you can, in the way that you can, with the heart and soul that you can. You are the only one who can gift this timeline with your art and ideas, and this power is at your fingertips. Please listen to Chuck. He's a doctor. Oh my god, Dr. Chuck Tingle. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. I think he's got, like, famously bad romance novels, like Pulp Fiction or something. It's just, he's got a very unique name. So for him to say that, that's kind of funny. Me, incorrect. Everyone is probably sick of me drawing this character by now. My inner voice, wise. But this cannot be, because I am part of everyone, and until I am sick of drawing them, it will not be everyone. Me, opening a new blank canvas. You're so right. Reblog if you never once have been even remotely bothered by seeing someone draw the same character over and over again. If one person loves your content, appreciate that shit, cause that's an entire human being who has to wake up every day and can die. People get caught up in not having hundreds or thousands of likes on something, when a solid 30 people is a lot. Imagine 30 people in your house right now. Something I found on Twitter that really puts things in perspective as a creator. Even if that one person is just you, don't stop creating. Make the things that spark joy and cause no harm. To be honest, I think fandom generally needs to get better at sitting with the uncomfortable fact that a story or fan work or meme or whatever can hurt one person and help another. This is why I think tag warning culture is kinder and more constructive than cancel culture or no problematic content culture. One size does not fit all, but if we learn to be more aware of the fact that the same thing can be emotionally validating or cathartic to one person and upsetting to another, and pick up a general mindset of thinking before we post, what might people need a heads up for in this content, we grow more compassionate, more thoughtful, and more understanding of the differences in people's experiences. Everyone has different needs or allergies. We don't remove all allergens from the world. We post an ingredients list. One thing you won't know until you experience it for yourself, when you create art out of love, is how it feels when people receive it with love. When you post a doodle and someone keeps it as their lock screen, or when you write a story and someone tells you they were thinking about it all day, or when you post a poem and someone shares it with a touching caption. Doesn't matter if it was objectively good or not. Matters that someone spent time with it, that someone really, really liked it, and you made it. This kind of interaction, I think, it can really sustain you for weeks. It can sustain you through a lot of terrible things. It's confirmation that you exist, and that, however briefly, your existence was appreciated by someone else through your art. Hypercritical culture always forgets about this. Effort and love will always attract me to media more than skill and talent. 15 ways to spark a new idea. Revisit an old project. Take inspiration from classic stories and folktales. Follow your interests. Start with genre, or a unique combination. Start with a character. Start with a setting. Combine or reinvent some classic tropes. Ask someone to share a story they don't usually tell. Be curious about the people around you. Use something from your past. Focus on a hard-to-define feeling. Experience something new. Brainstorm with a writing friend. Read outside of your comfort zone. Talk to a stranger about their life. Twist the normal, normalize the magic. Hope you guys make use of these ideas. I'm having creation ideas beyond my skill level. Do it anyway. I don't have good supplies. Do it with bad supplies then. I don't have free time. So do it slowly. Find the shortest, most direct route to your creation being realized and do whatever it takes to get there. Plus, you can revisit ideas as many times as you like, as frequently as you want to, so creating it now with your current skills, supplies, and time available is also not the be-all and end-all of that concept's execution. Do it anyway. Either you'll be pleasantly surprised by the results, or you'll have something for your future self to find and revisit another day, instead of losing the idea to the void. I love it when my creativity spurs other creativity. Literally no better feeling as an artist than when someone looks at something you've made and goes, I saw this and liked it so much I could do nothing more with myself than turn it into drive for my own creativity. Like, that's really what creativity is, huh? An instrument to further human expression and community and connection. Creating a feedback loop of art is powerful, satisfying, and beneficial to all. I love you allusions to things personally influential to the creator. I love you homages. I love you references to previous stories a creator has told. I love you repeating iconography over the course of several projects. I love you reused characters put into new contexts. I love you creators' thumbprint. I love you linguistic quirks. I love you themes approached over and over again from different angles over the course of a creator's body of work. I love you visible growth. I love you shoutouts. I love you reference as storytelling. I love you required reading to enjoy a story. I love you foundational texts. When I was in school, one of my art teachers used to say, "This world needs more creators. There's more than enough destroyers in the world today." Just a reminder, if you create anything, art, writing, food, machines, ideas, equations, knits, tools, gardens, the world needs you. This makes me happy. Happy creating, everyone! This is good to hear. It's really easy to look around and wonder, what's the point? But sometimes the point might just be to create instead of to destroy. I can't stress this though, but people have to relearn how to start creating for the joy of creation, instead of creating for the sake of skill. Art is supposed to be for fun, and it's up to you to indulge your appetite for creation as sincerely and candidly as you can. It doesn't matter if your art is bad or unskilled. The point of art is not to be good at it. The point is to create because you can, and because it feels good. Advice I gave someone today was, do it stupid. She wants to learn photography. Do it stupid. Take 1,000,000 photos. Don't think about why they're not good. Enjoy the process of taking photos. Pick out the ones you like the most and figure out why you like them. Is it because the subject is centered? Is it because you caught them doing something cool? Is it because the light made cool shadows? Do it stupid. If you try to do it smart, you'll get stuck. If you think too much, you'll never get to doing. Do it stupid. This. Fail a lot. Loosen up and try different things. Figure out what you love and what you dislike. Do a lot of whatever it is and learn by doing. My British publisher replaced pants with trousers, and the book went to print with the word OccuTrousers. Hyde's face. Yeah, I've had things like this happen. Deepest sympathies. There is an advanced reader's proof edition of the US edition of Neverwhere, in which flat was fined and replaced to apartment. People said things apartmently. There is an advanced reader's proof of American Gods, in which round, as in he walked round the lake, was changed to around, in which someone wore around spectacles. I was lucky. They were caught before the actual book came out. Oh boy. This should make you feel better about finding spelling errors in books. It even happens to Neil Gaiman of all people. Writing advice from my uni teachers. If your dialogue feels flat, rewrite the scene pretending the characters cannot at any cost say exactly what they mean. No one says, "I'm mad." but they can say it in 100 other ways. Wrote a chapter, but you dislike it? Rewrite it again from memory. That way, you're only remembering the main parts and can fill in extra details. My teacher, who was a playwright, literally writes every single script twice because of this. Don't overuse metaphors, or they lose their potency. Limit yourself. Before you write your novel, write a page of anything from your character's POV so you can get their voice right. Do this for every main character introduced. This is legit good writing advice, especially the first bullet point. In playwriting class, we did a bit where every bit of dialogue had to be an accusatory question, and it was glorious. Thinking about werewolves and the concept of becoming a monster and discovering that something savage and uncontrollable exists within you, and the potential that has to be a liberating narrative about growth and change and courage rather than a story about controlling and concealing it. Being a werewolf is about shame. I think it's also about anger, trauma, not belonging, and the fear that you might be unlovable. The shame of being a werewolf has to be that you were bitten by the wolf and you survived. You survived because you became the wolf yourself. You are this terrible, monstrous thing, and the terrible, monstrous thing is you. It's the part of you that survives the attack, and it's terrifying that this is you. I feel like werewolves are people who are very hurt. Not only that, they've spent their lives up to this point trying as hard as they can, being whatever the opposite of a werewolf is. Something tame, something yielding, something that's not angry and unpredictable and bestial. But the wolf is also them, because no matter how much you don't believe it, you want to make it. You want to survive, and you will fight so that you will live. Or, werewolves are people who are incredibly afraid. It's about the inevitability of not being lovable. Being a monster is unforgivable. It's about the inability to withstand anything that will happen to you. It's about your body betraying you. It's about carrying a terrible and ugly you inside you, locked up where no one can see it, because the thought of anyone else seeing that you is unbearable. It's about all of those things and more. I think the wolf is the part of you that loves you unconditionally. It's the part of you that bites when something tries to hurt you, when something tries to put you back in the place you're supposed to be. Of course it's scary. It's scary to find that you are impossibly strong and maybe selfish, that your self-hatred isn't enough to save you from the savage, stubborn knot of self-love you carry in your chest. But it's also the answer to that question, what if I am awful? What if I am terrible? Too terrible to look at, too terrible to love. What if you are a monster? Well, what then? I have this nebulous idea that the Marie Kondo method actually applies really well to editing the first complete draft of a story, and I just could write a whole essay about it, but that might be all there is to it. Going through part by part and asking if this sparks joy, and dropping it mercilessly into the discard dock if it doesn't. Not to derail anything, but I literally never even thought of having discard docks. Like, I'm always so sad and hesitant to not include pieces of my story because I don't want to get rid of it. Yeah, I have draft docs, but it's hard for me to actually remove stuff from finished products. I don't know if this idea was already public knowledge and I'm just slow on the uptake, because I know lots of writers will include removed bits from one story into another, but I just never thought about the process. Anyways, I will be making Discord docs now. Not at all. Having a separate document for discards passages, rather than deleting them, is a common tool, but it's just that, a tool. And with creative writing being quite commonly a self-taught discipline, it's not at all uncommon for even common tools to not be known by everyone, you know? But to wax poetic about the discard doc for a second, whenever I start a story of any length, I'll create a second notes document, which is a scratch pad and a dumping ground for any passages I end up cutting. Sometimes I'll even toss as little as a half sentence in there rather than delete it entirely, because I might come back and realize the first version of what I wrote was the best and most visceral, while later versions I tried were too telly, for example. And boom! First version is still there, in the discard doc rather than deleted. Discard docs can be a marvelous tool for editing, as they allow you to trim down your main draft of the manuscript without the pain of actually losing what you've written. And IMO, if you're going for a daily word count like for NaNoWriMo, those words absolutely should count. You wrote them after all. Just because they don't end up in the finished product doesn't mean they aren't valuable for the goal of writing the story. They also allow you to experiment a bit with what you put in or take out to see which version you like better. Best of all, maybe you hit a passage later in the story and realize the phrasing that didn't fit earlier fits really well here. Well, there it is in your discard doc. Seriously, discard docs are the absolute best. I'm a writerly pack rat who won't delete anything, and if you're at all like me, I highly recommend them. Collection of art wisdom. How to find your art style. Just draw whatever, and what's the most fun for you? Just do whatever. Don't even worry about it, dude. It doesn't matter. The actual key to learning to be a better artist is to be obsessed with something fucking stupid. Did you know you don't have to be good at something? You just gotta have fun. To everyone thinking this is unrealistic, or fake, or whatever, it's not. If you let go and have fun first, you're much more likely to keep going and become good without realizing. I hate it when people say you need to learn the basics of art before you go into it. The true way to learn art is actually going directly to drawing what you like, then being so attached to it that you have to go back and learn the fundamentals in order to make the art of what you like better. This sounds like I'm joking, but I'm serious. Passion first, theory second. I am going to create an ambitious art piece that I don't have half the technical skills needed for. That's how you get art skills. Aim way too fucking high and learn new things. It's the steps to growth, baby! This was just me being funny, but you're also correct and your brains are wrinkly. Yesterday was a bad writing day. I spent a lot of time staring at a screen. Lots of Tumblr replies. Lots of Twitter. The Netflix Sandman trailer going out didn't help. Lots of being grumpy at myself and convinced I couldn't do it anymore. The script was a mess. I was doomed. This morning I printed out what I had to fix, picked up a pen, made a few notes, and started typing. It was fun and easy and straightforward. I finished it and sent it to the people who needed to see it, and just got an amazed call from our script editor saying she was laughing while crying and couldn't work out how I'd done everything in a day. And I hadn't done it all in a day. All of the being miserable yesterday was necessary for it to fly today. All of the knowing it was insoluble and awful made the work today relatively easy. I had to get out of my own way, and had to read it freshly, without being attached to anything. And then I just did the notes. And to make the thing that worked today, a lot of stuff that didn't quite work, or sort of worked, had to be written too. It's always easier to fix stuff that exists. Anyway, yesterday equals bad writing day. Today equals good writing day. I thought it was worth telling people, in case there was anyone else out there who was having a bad writing day too. Petition to start writing, drawing more platonic content. Like sure, romance and couples can be cute, but friendships? Two people run into each other in a coffee shop, person A getting coffee spilled on them and having an anxiety attack because they've been on edge and that just set them off. Person B helps them out of it and they realize they share something in common and bond over that. And there's absolutely no romantic undertones! A straight girl has a rivalry with a straight guy and his friends, but after they live through a series of events together, they become best friends that are not attracted to each other at all. Person A is a loner who meets B, who brings out the best in them and introduces A to their friends. With the help of B and his friends, they help A get the courage to do something they've always wanted to do, and A is thankful. But it's not like that! Person A who has known Person B since they were in diapers, but then Person B starts making bad decisions, and A doesn't know what to do. I am not hating on romance shippers. I love OTPs and all of that as much as the next person, but they're in every single show. Just because I like a song doesn't mean I can listen to remakes of it for a decade and not get a little sick of it. I'm tired of every other girl being a love interest, and every boy and girl being shipped. There are more extravagant friendships than romances in the world, so why not in other worlds too? This sentence has 5 words. Here are 5 more words. 5-word sentences are fine, but several together become monotonous. Listen to what is happening. The writing is getting boring. The sound of it drones. It's like a stuck record. The ear demands some variety. Now listen. I vary the sentence length, and I create music. Music. The writing sings. It has a pleasant rhythm, a lilt, a harmony. I use short sentences, and I use sentences of medium length. And sometimes, when I am certain the reader is rested, I will engage him with a sentence of considerable length, a sentence that burns with energy and builds with all the impetus of a crescendo, the roll of the drums, the crash of the cymbals, sounds that say, listen to this, it is important. So write with a combination of short, medium, and long sentences. Create a sound that pleases the reader's ear. Don't just write words, write music. Gary Provost. 7 years later, I see you again. Guys, this completely changed my writing. Heed it. I often do an entire draft just looking at sentence variation, and sometimes the results are absolutely transformative in the difference. This is very, very good advice, and absolutely worth following. Read this. Read it again. Follow it. Your writing will get much, much better. Whenever I see this post, I am like, God damn, this is so true. The rise of AI art isn't surprising to us. For our entire lives, the attitude towards our skills has always been, that's not a real thing. It has been consistently, repeatedly devalued. People treat art, all forms of it, as if it could exist by accident, by rote. They don't understand how much art is in the world. Someone designed your home. Someone designed the sign inside of your local grocery store. When you quote a character or line from something in media, that's a line a real person wrote. I could do that. Sure, but you didn't. There's this joke where a plumber comes over to a house and twists a single knob, charges the guy $10K. The guy, furious, asks how the hell the bill is so high. The plumber says, turning the knob was $1. The knowledge is the rest of the money. The trouble is that nobody believes artists have knowledge, that we actively study, that we work hard, beyond doing our scales and occasionally writing a poem. The trouble is that unless you are already framed in a museum, or have a book on a shelf, or some kind of product, you aren't really an artist. Hell, because of where I post my work, I'll never be considered a poet. The thing that makes you an artist is choice. The thing that makes all art is choice. AI art is the fetid belief that art is instead an equation, that it must answer a specific question. Even with machine learning, AI cannot make a choice the way we can, because the choices we make have always been personal, complicated. Our skills cannot be confined to prompt and execution. What we are solving isn't just a system of numbers. It is how we process our entire existence. It isn't just 2 and 2 is 4. It's staring hard at the numbers and making the 4 into an alligator. It's rearranging the letters to say ow, and it is the ugly drawing we make in the margin. At some point, you will be able to write something by feeding my work into a machine. It will be perfectly legible and even might sound like me, but a machine doesn't understand why I do these things. It can be taught preferences, habits, statistical probability. It doesn't know why certain vowels sound good to me. It doesn't know the private rules I keep. It doesn't know how to keep evolving. But I want something to exist that doesn't exist yet. Great! I'm glad you feel creative. Go ahead and pay a fucking artist for it. This is all saying something we all already know. The sad fucking truth. We have to die to remind you. Only when we're gone do we suddenly finally fucking mean something to you. Artists are not replicable. We each genuinely have a skill, talent, and process that makes us unique, and there's actual quiet power in everything we do. A recipe for finding your story's plot. Ingredients. 2 cups of things that must be in the story. This can be characters, specific scenes, settings, subplots, etc. 1 cup of vague plot ideas I may not use. 1 tablespoon of central themes. 1 teaspoon of ending, either happy, tragic, or bittersweet. 1 teaspoon of protagonist's primary motivation. 2 pounds of brick wall. Time, as needed. Instructions. In a large bowl, mix things that must be in the story. Set aside. In a separate bowl, sift together vague plot ideas I may not use. Discard the excess and set aside. Add themes, ending, and motivation to a small jar. Screw lid on tight and shake until mixture becomes conflict. Pour conflict and vague plot ideas into things that must be in the story. Blend on medium until plot points form. Taste. If it is still missing something, smash head against 1 pound of brick wall for 1 to 6 hours. Let marinate for 1 to 365 days. Add more things and vague plot ideas as desired. Smash head against the rest of the brick wall for 1 to 6 hours. Screen. Repeat steps 5 through 9 as needed. After sufficient marination, the mixture will form an idea. This will tell you what specific action must happen in order to resolve your story's conflict. Write this down and make appropriate sacrifices to thank whichever deity took pity on you. Now you have your conflict, climax, and resolution. You just have to figure out how to get there. Good luck with the damn middle section, dork! You're my butter half. You're my butthole! This is a mural in Austin that someone vandalized. Either way, still a nice message. The original artist's response. As the artist behind this mural, I tip my hat. Let's take a closer look. Paint color match. 8 out of 10. Honestly, it should probably be higher, as the yellow paint color you chose here is actually a very close match to the original paint, which has since faded. Letter forms, 7 out of 10. The O is a nice balanced egg. The bottom leg of the E is a tad sloppy, but understandable if you were in a hurry. Delight factor, 8 out of 10. It's juvenile and a bit naughty, but damn it if it wasn't in line with the fun, whimsical spirit of the original. Social commentary, 9 out of 10. Somehow this enhancement manages not only to bring a smile to the faces of passersby, but make a poignant note on the state of our world in 2022. Am I to interpret this as you telling the world that it is your butthole? Are you saying that everything good has turned to shit? Can we not have nice things, like butter for Christ's sakes, anymore? Is this a shot at Austin? In toto? The mind boggles at the potential messages buried herein. So, to the young artiste, kudos. I applaud your craftsmanship, daring, and messages. To the rest of you, get out there and enjoy this masterpiece in person before it's too late. Something tells me it won't be around for long. Happy 2022! And the young artiste's response to their response. I am the young artiste in question. Some may say vandal, so my identity shall remain anonymous for now. Ventriloquist, thank you for your analysis. You are a gentleman and a scholar. Or an artist. I did not expect this to get so much attention here, and it was a treat to see your take on this. In response to your points of critique, paint color was a lucky match in a can of safety yellow. Letter form was very much dependent on speed. Delight factor has come from a general love for parody. Social commentary comes from many sources with your mural. Now that the building is home to a digital marketing agency, reducing the marketability by altering the mural provided catharsis. Austin needs more marketing like we all need a second butthole. It also just happened that the letters worked perfectly to tickle my undying inner child. A fair amount of my work lampoons Austin culture, the only hint I will provide for speculation over my identity. This was yet another opportunity. If I may be so bold to call this a collaboration, it has been a pleasure working with you. I really hope that this doesn't become a moment to capitalize on with mugs, shirts, and other merch. As one of my other public pieces has stated in a Red Wassenich quote, commercialization is the antithesis of weird. Should you go that route and make a pretty penny, please donate any proceeds to Inside Books Project under the name Mr. Butthole so that prisoners may benefit from my illegal act. Cheers, Mr. Butthole. Hi, I was wondering if you had any tips for increasing word count. I find after any time I write that it's just short of 1K, even though while I was writing it felt like a lot. Never been properly able to answer this question as I myself am an overwriter. What I write before I trim is usually a brief description of every new setting and character. If the setting or character is important, longer description. How characters speak and behave described in addition to their dialogue. Lots of dialogue, like if a character has feelings about a subject, let him rip. Inner monologue goes on for ages. Character building takes a lot of words, actually. I see people sacrificing this for plot a lot, or sacrificing plot for this, but you can fit it into a lot of places. Stop writing only plot-relevant stuff. There are other aspects of storytelling that can and should stay. World building can exist, even if it's a world you think everyone knows. What is the weather like? Are there noises, smells in the area that can be used to world build, influence dialogue, show character details, or otherwise affect the story or reader in some way? Have you considered all options for how the scene should go and answered all questions? Could you ask a new question within the story and answer it? This is basically how I fill my stories. I tend to go overboard, but for you, maybe these need to be addressed. I've just reblogged 2 other posts on this from other writer blogs, so check their advice. Art tips. Don't call what you create content, regardless of what it is. That's the devil talking. Call it art. Call it writing. Call it music. Call it analysis. Call it editing. Literally, just call it what it is. I was going to put other things, but oh my god, please just don't call yourself a content creator. You are a person. You are making art, writing, music, etc. You are an artist, an author, a musician. You are not an image generator for clicks and views. Please, allow yourself to connect with your work by naming it properly and acknowledging yourself in kind. Gonna add on to this, if that's okay, because I think a lot of people don't know how to categorize their work. Shitposting? You're a comedian, a satirist. Long posts about other people's art? You're a critic, positive, a scholar. Long posts exploring ideas, society, and the world around you? You're an essayist, a philosopher. Can't get enough of sharing information about X topic? You're a scholar, an educator, a columnist. Just love collecting and sharing other people's stuff on your blog? Archivist, curator, collector. Just not sure where you fit? Babe, you're a blogger. You don't have to be a professional, i.e. get paid, to be any of these things. You can claim the title without making any claims to the quality of your work. It's okay. And in that vein, amateur isn't a snooty way to say newbie or not professional. Amateur is French for lover. If you're an amateur, you're doing something not for tangible gain, but because you love what you're doing. And that's fine. Great even. Part of the Content Creator General Association is the expectation of following trends and set schedules, but you don't need to do any of that. Do art you love doing about what you love, and if you stop loving either, you can just stop doing it altogether. Please don't let the grind-set culture make you fall out of love with your hobbies. So I write all sorts of things, fiction, fanfic, screenplays, and my mind is a cluttered garden of flowers and weeds and shiny ideas, and I'm wondering how to form a writing practice to clear it into tidy rows. Is it possible to shepherd untamed ideas into order? How do you manage all your wonderful worlds, characters, and inspiration and not feel haunted by the story bits and pieces in your head? Any practical tips beyond dark magic? Thank you. You are such a constant inspiration for me. Both prose and just your presence. Oh god, Nani, if I ever find out, I'll tell you. When you read books, you're getting the Instagram-filtered view of a writer's brain. All the flowers that grew out of the compost heap, carefully composed and shot in optimal lighting. The real inside of my skull is a magpie nest of neat shit I read, saw, thought up, while lying awake at 2 a.m. There are characters and ideas in there that I've been trying to get into a manuscript since I was 12 and typing on an Amiga 500. But that said, really, I think it's okay. Creativity is inherently untidy. The compost heap can be corralled into a very pretty box made of sustainably harvested materials, hand-stained by traditional artisans being paid a living wage by an employee-owned company. But as soon as you lift the lid, it's all worms and coffee grounds and old potting soil and cow shit and the vegetables you swore you were going to eat this time before they went bad. That's what compost is. Nevertheless, having been in the business for 15 years now, D. Dwayne is snickering at me, I can feel it, and having written nearly 40 books, I can offer 3 bits of something less than advice. It's what I do. It may not work for anyone else, but it's what I do. Unadvice the first. If you get a shiny idea and you are super excited by it, go ahead and chase it. Pull up a new page in Word or whatever and slap down a couple thousand words while it's exciting. I know that this absolutely flies in the face of common wisdom, but quite frankly, my enthusiasm is a much rarer commodity than my time. So if I'm excited about something, I write it down until I've taken the edge off. Then I usually save it into a big folder called Fragments, and go back to work on whatever I've got a deadline on, usually. Sometimes the edge doesn't wear off and I wind up with another book, which, darn. There are vast numbers of people who will tell you that a shiny idea is a sign that something is wrong with your current project, and the solution is to knuckle down and work through it. And those people are probably right for them, and I trust they know how their own brains work. Me, though, I got ADHD like a bat has wings. My hard drive is a vast swamp of story beginnings, neat ideas, random scenes, and that's okay because I still get books finished. In fact, it's better than okay. Not that long ago, my agent sent a novella to a publisher, and they said, "We'll take that novella and 3 more novels. What have you got?" And I ended up plundering my hard drive and sending the editor a good dozen random beginnings until we found one that we both liked. And then I wrote the rest of that book. And then another one. If I hadn't had all those fragments lying around, though, it would have been a miserable experience of writing book pitches and trying to think of stuff I could get excited about. This may not be how some editors work, but it's how my editor and I work anyhow. Unadvice the second. Trust that everything will find a home eventually. This one is easy to say and hard to do because sometimes you get that overload that if you're writing the book about, say, were-bear nuns, you aren't writing the one about the alien crustaceans. Or worse, you feel guilty. If you don't use that one cool thing, was all that time you spent on it wasted? Breathe. Be easy. Every single cool thing does not need to go into a single book. There is no sell-by date on the neat character. You will probably write many books in your life, and all those random characters will find a home. Seriously, the were-bear nuns were lurking for like a decade. For me at least, when I find the spot where something fits, it often snaps into place like a Lego. Easton's backstory as a soldier from a society where soldiers were a third sex had been kicking around in my head for a few years, derived from about 3 different sources. And then I wrote the opening to What Moves the Dead, and all of a sudden Easton was there and alive, and they had strong opinions about everything, and I had 10,000 words practically before I turned around. You can also stave off guilt by writing some of your ideas in as highly personal Easter eggs. A couple of my books have references to a white deer woman, a heroic deed done by a saint and the ghost of a bird, and a woman with dozens of hummingbirds on tiny jeweled leashes. Those are all characters and stories I've had vague notions about, but haven't managed to work in anywhere or learn much more about. Still, the passing reference is enough to make me feel like I haven't abandoned them. The advantage to this is that once you do write those in, the readers are all, "Oh my god, she foreshadowed this a decade ago! She must have planned this all out in advance!" Then you look really clever and well organized, and no one has to know that you have no idea what you're doing. Unadvice the third. Write the kitchen sink book. At one point, I had so many stray ideas that hadn't gotten into a book yet. The Tree of Frogs, the Dog Soldiers, the Stained Glass Saint, the Albatross, and the Shadow of the Sun. And also I wanted to write something with Baba Yaga that I hauled off and wrote a book where I just put in everything and the kitchen sink. It's called Summer in Orcus. There are bits in there that I had been cooking in the mental compost heap for decades, but that weren't enough on their own to sustain a whole book. The phrase, "antelope women are not to be trusted," showed up in my head sometime in college. It's a fun little book, and I'm proud of it, but it's very much a patchwork quilt of weirdness. But it's also written so that if later on an antelope woman shows up in another book in another context, that just adds to their mythology. It doesn't break canon or whatever. Pretty sure I'm not the only one who has done this either. China Meeville has said that he wrote Perdido Street Station because what he really enjoyed was writing all the weird monsters. So yeah, that's my advice, for what it's worth. Some days I just tell all the fragments and ideas that I promise that I'll get them a home eventually, but I need to write this thing here now. Sometimes I throw down enough words to get the story stabilized, and then I'm okay to move on. Sometimes I write multiple books simultaneously. Any method you use to write the book, so long as it doesn't hurt you or anyone else, is a perfectly valid method. If anyone tells you different, you send them to me. God, I hope that was the question you were actually asking, Nani, and that I didn't go off on a completely different tangent when you just wanted to know how I keep track of a plot or something. T. Kingfisher, absolutely snickering. But every word above is true. Love this. Yes, the inside of my head is a huge, semi-abandoned junkyard that used to be a zoo and is sometimes turned into a haunted house for kids. sometimes I still manage to find things there. So my apartment building got a notice board to post fire alarm tests and maintenance announcements and such. The building is very well maintained, so we rarely get notices. The board is big and gray, and to think it would be empty like that 99% of the time was a bland, boring sin I just couldn't bear. So I vandalized the corner of its empty canvas with a teeny tiny guy. Creature. And within a few days, there was a sudden addition from one of my neighbors, along with a bunch of thumbtacks. This was an unexpected but welcome surprise. Aww. Well, there was still so much space, I figured I'd add another crumb to the art hoard. I'd been playing Genshin that day, so I drew my favorite grandpa. And like clockwork, new art manifested. This person is gonna grow to be a great artist, I know it. The detail in those stones? Hell yeah, that's cool. Colored with crayon. We're 2 weeks into it. More neighbors have joined in with their artwork. Who knew there were so many artists in my building? We're onto something great here, I just know it. Mary, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Unfortunately, it's too blurry for me to read this little guy's speech bubble, but he looks pretty cute. Update. One of my neighbors drew Venti to go with my Genshin grandpa! Who did this? I am retaliating. I need to know who did this. What's with this sassy lost child? Y'all are so talented. Amazing art, everyone. Jojo has entered the chat! OMG, hi, I'm your neighbor. I drew the Venti. My friend just messaged this post. I'm so overwhelmed. Please feel free to message me. I would love to meet up sometime. You! See, I was joking with my friends, saying, what if my neighbors find me through my post on Tumblr? And foolish me said, nah, that's crazy. Tumblr is vast, and I barely tagged the post. What are the chances that they'd ever see it? And then Apollo one-hit KO'd me with that dodgeball of prophecy! Yes, I would absolutely love to hang out sometime. I was not expecting this! At all! Respectfully. Oh my god! Also joked, haha, what if we saw my neighbors cosplaying in the wild and we never knew? Or at a con and we never knew? And I am not ready for that second dodgeball! Because statistically, if you go to Genshin, you probably go to the local cons too. Weeping. This is incredible! Hey, question for writers. How do you do that? Most of the time, no damn idea. It's the caterpillar idiom thing. Once you figure out your own version of the basics, you go forward and don't pay more attention than you can help to what your legs are doing. Unless I've got it wrong, it's not caterpillars, hunting wasp food anyway, it's caterpillars or millipedes. Don't think about how something that complicated works. That it works at all is enough for now, or at least until second draft. Sometimes two brilliant writers will both fail to write the word centipede and write the word caterpillar instead. This only happens when you start asking them how they do the thing they do. Take this as a lesson. Although the thing that centipedes and millipedes do is pretty explicable. The thing that caterpillars do, where they make a cocoon and then digest themselves into a liquid caterpillar soup, and then use the protein-rich soup to build a butterfly that somehow still remembers things the caterpillar learned, that's weird, and probably more like what writers do, which I am certain is why both Diane and Peter went there. Also, both words begin with C. Reminders for the anxious and depressed creatives. You're more than what you make. Your productivity does not determine your value. It's okay to do nothing sometimes. Not everything you do has to result in a product. Not everything you make has to be important, significant, or even good. You can make things just for yourself. You can keep secrets for yourself, whether it's not posting some of your projects or not sharing your techniques. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to rest. 2023 updates. Inspiration doesn't cure burnout. Rest cures burnout. People will wait for you. Take your time and come back when you are ready. It's okay to scrap projects that no longer excite you, even if other people like them. It's delightful and excellent to be openly proud of your work. Afford yourself the same gentleness that you would afford another creative. Negative self-talk is counterproductive and frankly cruel. Self-indulgent creations are satisfying to others as well. Don't apologize for your own pleasure. Actually, don't apologize for your work at all. I just had a small epiphany why you might like other people's art more than your own. It's the lack of suspension of disbelief. When you see something someone else has drawn or painted, you take in the content faster than you take in the technical aspects. You experience it as pseudo-real, the same way you stop perceiving animated characters as drawn, or book characters as written as you get into the story. On the other hand, when you yourself have made something, all you see is the machine behind the theater, so to speak. You're probably thinking about lines, shading, coloring in a "does this make sense? Is this the best decision I could have made?" kind of way. I think that's also why sometimes pictures you haven't looked at for a long time starts looking nice to you again. A la, "Hey, past me was onto something. Why can't I replicate it nowadays?" It's probably specifically because you've forgotten the process of making it that you are now seeing it with fresh eyes. Art is an illusion, but a magician has a hard time tricking themselves, so don't be so hard on yourself. It's probably just that you can't see the magic right now, but that doesn't mean it's not there. You just put something into words that I have been feeling for a while. This might actually get me to try digital painting again. Thank you! OMG, I'm glad to hear! Fantasy characters. Jeez. Me. Who the fuck spread Christianity there? This 2 years old shitpost just gained 100 notes. Who the snickerdoodles dug it up? Me in the back of my head every time I'd like to add swears to high fantasy settings. Everything is a minced fucking oath. You can't even say goodbye because it's short for God be with ye. What? I was reading a book and there was champagne, and I was like, these guys don't even have France. They don't even have France. In moments like this, I always fall back on the fact that they also aren't speaking English, because they don't have England, or the many languages and conquering peoples that contributed to the creation of the English language, and therefore the work must be a translation into recognizable terms in our world's terms. Call that Tolkien brain rot. Definitely funnier if you make fantasy explanations, though. Champagne is a wizard who sells bubbly alcohol. It's called English because of the original Lish people. All languages start with N here. French fries are not potatoes, they're roots of the French plant. Goodbye is now short for good be your eye, wishing you luck seeing the path ahead. Jesus Christ is a long dead lich who used to cause everyone problems, and we haven't stopped saying her name when things go wrong. Me, having deeply fallen out of the practice of writing poetry. I can't write anymore. I am now a talentless hack. The voice of my 11th grade journalism, 12th grade creative writing teacher who really did know everything. If you stop writing for a while, the words will build up and stagnate. To clear the water, you will have to open the dam completely, and accept the fact that what initially comes out will not be palatable. This is so true. Starting again is more important than what you actually write. You are rusty. You'll build up momentum again. All you need to do is start. Everything is a muscle. Starting again might feel more painful than starting for the first time because you know what heights you could achieve before, but you're better than when you started the first time. You'll pick up the cues faster. You remember the old techniques rather than painstakingly hitting each step. It's in your body, so just let it move. Anyway, what's the other option? Would you rather die without ever touching that thing you love again? Your art isn't valued by the number of notes you get. Okay, but if you spend 6 hours baking a cake for a party, but no one at the party eats your cake, it's still disappointing. This articulates something about the difference between value and validation that I didn't previously register on a conscious level. This is why I tell people I feel more like an entertainer than an artist. I want to hear them laugh, chat, comment, speak, roar, cry, get irrationally angry. I need people to respond to my art and get inspired and need more. I don't want a note. I want a response. Responses are very nice. I like reading over them. They make me feel fuzzy. Of course, likes and reblogs are also very appreciated, but responses make me feel a special kind of fuzzy. That's the thing about the, oh, create for yourself, don't worry about other people attitude. That almost exclusively comes from non-artists and people who have tons of followers and routinely get tons of validation for some reason. That doesn't quite work. I guarantee you, most of us already are creating for ourselves above all, but we post our creations for human connection, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not sure when we all got to the point where wanting validation for something you worked hard at is seen as a bad thing, that you're pathetic for wanting. If you think that way, it's not only toxic as hell, it's killing creators. Creating isn't easy. When there's nobody to look at your work and say, "You did a good job, this was hard," the drive and ambition disappears. Then so does the work. Give your content creators value. Reblog content. Some ideas for bad things that are white or light: lightning, very hot fire, snowstorms, ice, frost on crops, some types of fungus or mold, corpses, ghosts, bones, a diseased person, clothing, skin tone, hair, etc. of a bad person, fur, teeth, eyes of an attacking animal or monster, bleached out deserts, dead trees, lifeless places, poison. Some ideas for good things that are black or dark: rich earth and soil, chocolate, truffles, wine, cooked meat, friendly animals, pets, creatures, a character's favorite vehicle, technology, coat, etc. A pleasant night, hair, skin tone, clothing, etc. of a good person, undisturbed water of a lake, the case or container of something important, valued wood, furniture, art, velvet. Think to burn, to infect, to bleach, versus to enrich, to protect, to be of substance. Slams reblog like the fist of an angry god. The politics of light and dark are everywhere in our vocabulary. PSA to writers: subvert this. Reveal whiteness and lightness as something artificial and violent, and darkness as healing, the unknown as natural. The truth finds more comfort in the dark. The light can blind as easily as the dark conceals. The dark can protect as easily as the light guides. Neither are pure good nor evil, pure chaos nor order. The light and dark just are. Light is not good. Dark is not evil. AO3 is a drive-through, not a personal chef. You can order anything that's on the menu, and you can have as much of it as you want for free. But if what you want isn't on the menu, then you have to roll up your sleeves and cook it your damn self. This is the best simile ever! Don't complain about the menu, get cooking! And remember, if you don't like it or are allergic to it, you don't have to order it. There's plenty of other options on the menu that might appeal to you that you can get instead. And again, making your own is still an option. And don't abuse the cooks for not delivering your specific meal to your exact specifications. And you don't give advice to the cooks on how they should make it either. Not unless the cook specifically asked for a review on their items. That's putting it a bit harshly, but I'm not interested in constructive criticism, or criticism in general at the moment. I'm just here to cook and randomly throw something up on the menu from time to another. If I want constructive criticism again at some point, then I'll ask for it. Until then, shush and enjoy your fish burger with olives and fresh pineapple. I said shush! Not sure if you wanted spell checks or editing, but here, you left the best part in the tags. One of the best writing advice I've gotten in all the months I've been writing is, if you can't go anywhere from a sentence, the problem isn't in you, it's in the last sentence. And I'm mad because it works so well and barely anyone talks about it. If you're stuck at a line, go back. Backspace those last two lines and write it from another angle, or take it to some other route. You're stuck because you thought up to that exact sentence and nothing after that. Well, delete that sentence. Make your brain think because the dead end is gone. It has worked wonders for me so long, it's unreal. I don't remember where I heard this now, but I absorbed the advice. If you're stuck, count 10 sentences back and start again from there. It's not always 10 sentences back for me, but it does force me to look at the last handful of lines I've actually written on a sentence instead of a story level, and that is eminently helpful in unsticking myself most of the time. I recently resolved a point where I'd been stuck for months, not by changing anything in the scene I was currently writing, but by realizing I needed to add another scene before that one to establish key information I couldn't work into the current one. Hey writer mutuals, come get your writer juice! Important information, very good advice. Thank you. Those first couple weeks after escaping a time loop have gotta be disorienting as all fuck. All those little cues that used to tell you what's about to happen are now triggers that cause you to brace for something that isn't coming. You have to relearn the permanence of death. Hell, you have to reacquaint yourself with the entire concept of finality altogether. Everything keeps changing, but it never changes back. And you keep having to remind yourself that this is normal. It won't reset anymore, you echo to yourself, over and over and over, like a broken record, like you're still trapped in a loop, like someone who escaped the time loop but was doomed to bring it into the future with them. Thank you! There really needs to be more stuff about what happens to a person after the time loop ends. The story just always ends with them being so excited that it's fixed and everything's over. Give me a guy fucking something up and just leaving it for an hour because it's just gonna reset soon, and then the cold dread of realization that, oh shit, it's not gonna reset this time. Maybe this time it was something small like a dropped plate, but what if it had been something big? What if he had accidentally hit someone with his car and just kept driving because, I'll just avoid them next time? And what about all the seemingly innocuous bullshit that culminated in huge butterfly effects when he was stuck? What's going to happen if he steps on that flower? Will it somehow cause a nuclear meltdown 3 towns over? Just a guy who slowly spirals into madness, and no one can help him because they don't believe the time loop ever happened. The curse of modern fandom is that it has allowed fans to get even closer to artists, but they won't view the artists as people. Human limits, human mistakes, human feelings, human needs are never ascribed to artists. And when other fans rightfully point out, hey, humans are making this, maybe don't harass them or demand they cater to your personal tastes, it gets shut down under, people who make popular mainstream things are automatically public figures who are also probably rich, so eat the rich and destroy artists over every perceived minor fault. Even though there's, a really big strike currently going on, because those artists are very much not rich or influential or in control of this bullshit. The more friends I make in the various facets of the entertainment industry, and the more widely my own art gets shared, the more I realize that a lot of y'all genuinely don't see artists as human beings if they meet some arbitrary standard of being known online. There is no amount of online fame that makes someone subhuman and a valid target for blatant disrespect and harassment. Contrary to popular belief, you do not actually own and control a piece of art just because you like it a lot. The artists are not subject to your personal whims and tastes. They owe you nothing. Finishing a fic that was the most profound thing you've ever read, only to realize you have no one to talk to about it because no one shares the same level of brain rot about them that you do. Every time I see posts like this, I get filled with such profound sadness. Cause you know who has the same brain rot as you? The same unhinged feelings as you after you've read the fic? The person who always wants to scream about the fic with you? The person who wrote it! I never used to leave comments, but since I got into the habit of commenting on everything I enjoy, it's been incredible, especially when the author gets back to me about it and we get to have a discussion of what other ideas they had. One writer replied to my comment with a 5-paragraph essay detailing the floor plan of the building the characters lived in, and it was incredible. Anyways, this is all to say that if you find a fic that just makes you want to scream from the rooftops, leave a comment saying that to the author, and maybe they will join you, and you can scream incoherently together. It's also important to know, this feeling of isolation is what the author feels, but tenfold. It's the exact reason writers are begging for comments. It's to talk about the story with someone. That story that's taken up your life for a few hours, or perhaps days, has taken up the author's life for weeks, months, and very often, years. There's a very good chance these authors are dying to talk to you. Basic rules for analyzing fiction. An incomprehensive list jotted down in a hurry. The protagonist isn't always right. The protagonist isn't always good. The protagonist isn't always written to be relatable or likable. The narrator isn't always right. The narrator isn't always good. The narrator isn't always telling the truth. The narrator isn't always the author. The protagonist's moral compass, the narrator's moral compass, and the author's moral compass are three entirely different things that only occasionally overlap. Pay attention to what characters do, and not just what they say. Pay special attention when what the characters do is at odds with what they say. A lot of the time, the curtains are blue for a reason. If they aren't, you should read better books. One more, the antagonist isn't always telling the truth. So many times I have seen people apparently just forget that it's possible for fictional characters to be A, mistaken, or B, lying, and say things like, "We know this to be true because characters said so here," or worse, "This fact is canon because characters said it." The antagonist isn't always telling the truth. The protagonist isn't always telling the truth. The secondary and minor characters aren't always telling the truth. The narrator may be telling the truth, but if the narrator is also a character in the story, then don't count on it. Deep, serious literary analysis. This is not a difficult concept.